data becomes the fundamental building block. Actually, for example, Google came out with a paper a couple days ago called Learn Indexes. What it basically does is it learns something as fundamental as B trees, like these simple data structures, and it increases their efficiency using machine learning. So if we start from the ground up with machine learning, we'll be using data, somebody else's data that Google does not own, and putting it out there in production for everybody to use. Now, in a society like that, we need to have democratic data. We need to democratize data across all places. So, and blockchains are perhaps the only solution that allow you to do that. So let's look at how OpenMind does this. The OpenMind framework, what it promises is three things. It's data privacy, which is homomorphic encryption. You can work with data that you cannot see. And that sounds like magic because it's kind of like putting a box in a candy bar and taking out exactly what you want. Because you can work with data that you cannot see. That's what homomorphic encryption does. Then it's an autonomous process, which means that everything is totally out of control of the server of the administrator. Middlemen are absolutely replaced by smart contracts. And it fights inequality because it democratizes the data frameworks that we already have. Alright, so let's look at the framework. Let's step through each one of them one by one. Okay, so these are the slides that they actually have on their website, so you can go check that out. Okay, so what we're doing is we have an AI Inc. on the place where there's a data scientist at, say, AI Inc., Google or something, who needs to train a data science model, a machine learning model, and he needs somebody's data. So what he does is he sends his model spec, which is what do you want to train? You want to train RNN and LSTM plus some money plus an RSA public key to the smart contract. The smart contract is hosted on the Ethereum blockchain. All those specs go to the Oracle. The Oracle is the key management system here. We'll see why the Oracle is important. Now, from the RSA public key, does everybody know what an RSA public key is? Okay, so what basically is, it's used for encryption. Each key needs a private and a public key. The private key you hold and the public key is given out in the open. So the Oracle does key management. From the public key, it creates two homomorphically encrypted public and private keys. Now using that, the cloud basically on the slide symbolizes that the data, the gradients have been homomorphically encrypted, which means that you cannot see what is happening, but you can still work with it. Now the same thing is sent back to the smart contract. Now Joe or anybody in the audience can request from the smart contract that I'm looking for this kind of specification, and I want to give my data to this kind of a model. He's going to call the smart contract, and he'll get the model specification back. And if the model specification is compatible with the kind of data that he's producing, he'll be able to send back the model. He trains it on his own model. This thing represents that from bad weights it's gone to good weights because it's trained on his gradients. It gets sent back to the smart contract. It's stored there. If it's a good gradient, money goes back to Joe. So this way you're getting paid for the data that you produce. Right now what happens is, even to log into your phone you need to connect your Google account. That's a violation of so many, because what you're basically doing is you're giving away all kinds of data. All your apps know everything that Google knows, right? So that's a big issue. So Joe is paid. That model goes back to the Oracle, and it's decrypted using the public key that is homomorphically encrypted. Now, using the RSA public key that we saw earlier in the beginning, the model is encrypted, sent back to the smart contract, and then sent back to AI Inc. So in this entire process, what have we done? We've created a system where AI Inc. can train their model without anybody need to see Joe's data. They can get their model trained. They can Joe doesn't need to see the model. The model doesn't need to see Joe's data, but all the work is still done. So it's like a completely secure, private solution for all the machine learning that we do today. So this is radically different to what we are doing today, and it promises these three things that, as Aditya showed, have very important in a world increasingly run by machine learning software. Okay, so the second solution is, this was a private solution where you can homomorphically encrypt all your data and sell it to AI through the smart contract. But what you can also do is you can have IoT sensors, and they can be directly connected to the blockchain using something like the Lightning Network or some other kind of caching sidechain. They're connected to the blockchain, and if you want their data, you contact a smart contract which is connected to those IoT servers. Right? So there was a paper titled "When Your Sensors Earn Money." When Your Sensors Earn Money by ETH Zurich, if you want to check it out. So they basically built a prototype where your IoT sensor data, maybe your health data or something, can be directly it's directly paid for and then used by AI Inc. Then you have P2P crowdsourcing. There's lots of already projects that are doing this. If you have P2P crowdsourcing, what it basically means is you create a system, a network, where you send out a request into the chain that says, I need these questions answered. Anybody who answers these questions get this money that is stored on the smart contract. Now there's a protocol called GEMS, G-E-M-S, that is already doing this. So it's already in production. You can go check it out. Now you can sell data directly to vendors. This is the simplest solution. This is already on the chain, and this is basically what the data marketplaces can do for you. Okay, so AIDAOs. This is perhaps my favorite topic on this in this conversation, because there's a huge amount of potential that this holds. So what is a DAO? A DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. So what it basically does is it's a bunch of smart contracts posted on a network that pay people to do something for it. For example, you can think of Bitcoin like a DAO. What it does is it pays miners for doing something that the network wants, which is mining, right? Computational work. If you do computational work, or if you are Steemit, if you share good content, you're paid, right? So it's kind of like a DAO, decentralized autonomous organizations. At the core of it, what are we doing in a DAO? We're paying people outside the chain for doing work that the chain wants. It's kind of like a society. Naval Ravikant said that society pays you for what you want, for what it wants you to do. The blockchain pays you for what the network wants you to do. That is exactly what a DAO does. Now, how will this change stuff? So if you're working for a DAO, the network does not care if you're Asian, if you're black, it does not matter. Because, I mean, look at the miners, right? We don't care who the miners of the Bitcoin network are. All we care is that they do the work. And for that, they're regularly paid. This can fundamentally change everything we know about employability. Because, okay, what I'm suggesting is, look at this. You have smart contracts hosted on the blockchain which employ you to do some kind of work that the network pays you for. That we have Steemit, we have mining on the Bitcoin network, and Ethereum pays you for Ethereum. You can build dApps on Ethereum that pay you for doing creative stuff. And okay, so this is something that is radical in the future of work, and we might just see a future where we are not employed by companies, but rather by DAOs or smart contracts. Okay, so what are GANs? So these are some of the things that we can do. GANs are generative adversarial networks. What they basically do is in a word, they create stuff. They're AI that creates stuff, and they can create art. So there is increasingly a market for AI generated art because of the hype. So what we can have is a smart contract where, or a DAO where the GAN puts out his work on display, and people who want to purchase that art just put out money to the DAO and they can purchase directly. So what we actually have is a autonomous artist, not human, on the blockchain, and we're still in 2017 and not in a cyberspace movie or something. So that is absolutely fascinating. The other thing, and this again is amazing, is the idea of self-ownership. So there was this project called Terra Zero. What it basically did was, there's a forest in Sweden, and what they've done is they've given the ownership of the forest to the forest itself. How did they do that? what they did was they put tokens of the forest on the ethereal blockchain and created a DAO where the forest has legal rights to its own ownership. And since, like Pawan told us yesterday, that smart contracts are legally enforceable, the Terra Zero is basically the world's first self-owning forest. And I was reading a book on the introduction to capitalism, and what the guy said was, people will never care about things like natural calamities and stuff until you actually give monetary value to them, like forests and stuff. And this is exactly what we're doing here with AIDEOs. So self-governed cars. This entire idea of self-governance of non-inanimate objects is absolutely radical. We're going to see absolute legal ramifications. We're going to see changes in the way people approach finance of things like these. So at Nextech also we've been working on AIDEOs, and one of the coolest projects that we've done is we put a car on the blockchain basically. So what you do is all the insurance, all the toll costs are directly paid through an IoT device, and that IoT device is connected to the blockchain. So projects like these, you should check out Project Open. These are again projects that do self-governance of inanimate objects using blockchains. Now again, we come back to that point of employment. We know that there is a big bias everywhere we go. Employment, not just employment. I mean, we know that there's a gender discrimination when we talk about wage. AIDEOs, employers, are absolutely blind to all of that. And we can actually have a society where, totally egalitarian society where everybody lives and works in harmony, something like that. And this is something that we should all explore more, right? Okay, so are there any questions? Also, just check out the slide. This is something Arvind Narayan posted yesterday. He's a Princeton researcher, really cool guy. So I will write and proofread your blockchain ICO white paper for $100. So that's something. Anyway, so any questions about the entire idea? Or if you want to discuss something specifically.
So, when you say that AI and blockchain, these things can be combined, right? But blockchains right now are not ready for the data, right? The lesser the data we have on the blockchain, that is more useful, right? Even the block stack they are using current AWS and everything, right? They don't put every data there. So you cannot actually, and for AI, the more the data, more it is good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you combine it?
Absolutely. So what? Let's go back to OpenMind. What they've done is they're training. All they've done is so they're using IPFS for the model part, right? All they need the blockchain for exactly is for the smart contract. They just need the smart contract, which is decentralized, and the rest of the stuff is done in IPFS, which is again decentralized. So you can have cloud in the mix, but the decentralization part comes from the blockchain, right? That's it.
So, yeah, data is not necessarily stored on the blockchain. We use, like you said, the interplanetary file system and the database.
One more thing on that. So doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Anybody else?
Anybody else have any questions? Please press the...
Yeah, please.
So when we say we can use AI without knowing what the data there is, right?
Yeah.
But what I understand from machine learning work, what I have done, you have to put multiple algorithms, right? You can use one thing, then you realize that there is not a solution, then you go to another solution, and you need to analyze what the results we are getting, right? It is good for us or it is not good for us, right? And then you decide if this is the final algorithm, this is the perfect algorithm which I can have right now. But if you can't see the data, you cannot analyze the data, then it doesn't work.
Okay, absolutely. So the OpenMind infrastructure is for putting things into production, right? What you're talking about is about prototyping, right? When you're in the prototyping stage, you need to find which model will suit your data best. And there are already open data initiatives which you can download data and test your data. But when you actually need out in the world data, like crowdsourced data that is actually out there in the world, right? Then you can use OpenMind services, right?
So you mean that something that's already established can only be put into the system?
The thing is, when you prototype a new model, you basically need to have your own small data set to test it out on, and like he said, so if it's since this to enable a better production level management system for data, it's more with the more for the concern of each person's individual data privacy. So while we understand that there might be small issues between that, it's not something which can't be worked out, and it's mostly a change in mindset, because right now
But I understand that the point you're making is that you can't have you need data for prototyping even before you actually put it in production, right? And that kind of data will always be available. We're not what we are trying to do is you should be in a position where you have control of your data, right? And once you can do that, you can sell Google, and once there's a competitive market for a data place like this, once you're competing with other people, the prices of these data sets, the prices of your personal data will be very low, right? So Google will purchase your personal data for low prices, and it won't be a lot on their part to make up for.
But we are getting over ambitious with the future. Right now, my point is even to go out to enterprise level production. And the product is ever evolving. You cannot say that this is the final product. It has to evolve with time and conditions. So and your entire prototyping and your entire finalization of the product is done off chain.
Yeah,
right?
so what we're trying to say is OpenMind is the only open source library which even attempts to do something like this. This has never been tested at scale. So like you said, who knows what the future holds, but this is a good step in trying to tackle this problem.
And actually, it's a necessary step, right? Because if we don't go in a direction like this, software is going to eat up the world, and it's going to eat up our privacy as well. We need to take back those privacy rights, and we need to take back our data from companies like that. Otherwise, what we'll eventually have is a dystopian society where Google has everybody's data. And actually, Arvind Narayan, the guy on the screen, he actually had this thing where you have a de-anonymized data set. You have a de-anonymized data set of graphs, and from that anonymous nodes, you can find out the real identities of the people with a just 12% error rate. So in a world where you can find out anonymous people just using the internet, we need to have that kind of data privacy that makes all this
even in the darknet, using Bitcoin doesn't actually shield you from exposing identity.
Exactly. If FBI tries hard enough, they can find you. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, my question is to both of you, one can ask. It's like you talk about Google and Facebook now, so there's a lot of use of voluntary data which people are given to these corporations and value addition to the data. So how do you think coming of blockchain changes the ownership of data, number one? And second, how do you see labor here? So miners working by themselves or for themselves, or miners working for big data corporations? So does it changes something in terms of decentralization, or it gives rise to new corporations? So your take on that.